Hello everyone, this is Dr. Rachita Mishra speaking to you. Today in this lesson, we will take up the incremental process models as part of software engineering. In the previous lesson, we had covered waterfall model and the other sequential models. In this particular topic, in this particular lesson, we will cover the concept of the incremental model and what is the meaning of incremental development, and then we will look into two models under incremental methods. One is the incremental process model and the second is the RAD process model. So what is incremental development? Let's look at this concept of increments. So what we are saying here is that in waterfall model, we had seen that there is a single delivery. The whole system is completely developed and delivered in one go. But here what we are wanting to do in increments, we are trying to break the system into several deliverable increments. Each one will be developed one by one and delivered separately. Each increment delivers a part of the required functionality and the functionality is built incrementally. So referring to this figure, suppose this is one set, this contains certain amount of functionality, we term it as A. So the increment A is first developed and it is delivered, and when the user is using the this functionality, what is done is the development team takes another set of features and these features are built over A. So when this increment is delivered, actually we are delivering A plus B. So incrementally we are going on adding features to the previously built increments. So incremental model, so each increment delivers a part of the required functionality. Functionality is built incrementally over the previous ones. Incremental model focuses more on the delivery of operational product in each increment. This, when we say operational product, what we mean is that the functionality of the particular increment that we have delivered will be able, the user can actually use it in his business. So the usability is the major important focus here. The customer will be using that particular increment. We can consider each delivery like a mini project. So this is the first mini project, and having completed this mini project, we take up another mini project and then we deliver, and so again we take up another mini project. So the big project is divided into several mini projects or several increments. So let us see how we do the planning for this incremental development. So the first increment is often the core product. When we say core product, what we mean is that it includes only the basic requirement, whatever is the minimum requirement by which the customer can do some amount of use of the software, that is selected as the first increment, as the core increment. And whatever are the other requirements, they are considered as supplementary features and they are kept aside for subsequent increments. In the subsequent increment, when the subsequent increments are planned, there are two types of activities, two types of scope that goes into it. The first one is the modification of the previous increment. In the previous increment, we have delivered certain features to the user. Now, having used that feature, they may have some changes or some modification, some refinement of the requirement or some defects. So that is one type of scope that will go into the into this subsequent increment. The other is that the additional supplementary features which we had kept aside. So some of these features will get into the this increment. So additional features to enhance the functionality. So we have to select from the set of features which we have kept aside and add it into the subsequent increment. Again, when this is over, then we repeat this. So increments can be planned to manage technical risks. So when we do the planning of the increment, when we select the scope to be included in a particular increment, we have to see that no technical risk comes up. The technical risk has to be evaluated each time we take up this increment, the scope of the increment, when we plan the scope of the increment, and we have to see that it does not pose us any technical problem. Within each increment, the classic waterfall model process can be followed, because each increment is a small project, it's a mini project, its scope is very less, and because of that it is also well understood. So since it is well understood, we can freeze it, and each increment can be delivered as a single go, as like the classical waterfall model. However, increments, so this is when we say classical waterfall model, it will follow the phases will inside the classical waterfall model will follow a linear sequential fashion. So all the activities that we do within a single increment will follow the classical waterfall model. The flow of the phases will be linear sequential. But however, when we see across the increments, we can plan it with overlap schedule instead of linear. We did not have to wait until the first increment is over to start the development of the second increment. The second increment can be started, although it will be delivered after the first increment is over, but it can be started before the first increment is completed. It is particularly useful when project has to be conducted with less number of software engineers. So if we have a resource crunch, then we can always try to divide the complete project into smaller increments, so that each increment can be developed properly with less number of team members. The diagram process flow. This diagram gives us a process flow of the incremental model. So initially the requirements is phase is there, but here we don't insist, like waterfall, we don't insist that the requirement has to be completely known and completely analyzed and frozen. We say that this is a rough requirement. This should be good enough for us to identify the core and non-core features. So whatever is the basic features or the basic functionality, that has to be taken up in the first increment. So we develop the core functionality by using a waterfall method and deliver it. So once this is done, then this, when we deliver it, it goes to the user. So user makes it operational. Once they make it operational, they will provide the feedback for the requirement refinement, and they will also decide what will go into the next increment. So the requirement of the next increment will get frozen. Once this is frozen, then we will develop the next iteration, which will have the non-core functionality, and we will have to deliver that to the user. Again, the feedback will come and some more non-core functionality will get added, and this requirement will get frozen, and the next iteration will be developed. So this development, identification of the requirement, development, delivery, and then the feedback. This process will continue for a few iterations until all the requirements that was given at the initial stage is exhausted and all the scope is completed. Then we can say that the software is fully delivered, and then it goes to the maintenance phase. Now, as we have seen that each increment is a waterfall. The development of each increment, this as well as this, this step as well as this step is following a waterfall process model. So this is linearly sequential, this is linearly sequential, but this, that means within this increment it is a waterfall, it is linearly sequential, but between these two there is an overlap. So because this is done, started by a different team, and here there is a different team, this functionality is separate and this functionality is separate. Although this functionality sits over this functionality, but we can always start this increment by in a overlapping manner. So there is some amount of parallelism, although each increment is sequential like a waterfall. So let's take a little bit more look at the incremental model. The incremental model provides a lot of value to the business users. The business need is the focus, and how it is used, while making the usable software available for use, because we are making the whatever software we are giving, each increment we are delivering, that is usable by the business user. They can put it into operation. So when they put it into operation, they are able to carry out their business. So the business value is coming out very early in the life of the software. Requirements are prioritized in consultation with the user, considering business value. So it is the users who are prioritizing it. They are deciding what is the highest priority, which requirements has to go early to provide the business value or the return on the investment. So all the must have requirements are first identified, and they are prioritized. The high priority requirements will go into the early increments, whereas the low priority requirement will go into the later increments. So that there, by that way, the user is involved. Because the user is involved, we say that it increases the transparency in the development. That means the user is able to see what, and it also the user is able to have a say in what is being developed. Unlike the waterfall model, where the user just gives the requirement and there is no interaction, here there is a continuous interaction for every increment. High priority requirements are included in early increments, considering technical and operational feasibility. So that is what we were talking in the first point, that the prioritization decides based on the business value, the prioritization of the requirement is done, and these are taken up in the early increments. However, we have to also consider technical and operational feasibility. Each increment is a classic waterfall because the requirement is well known and frozen. Once the development of an increment is started, the requirements for that increment are frozen, though requirements for later increments can continue to evolve. That we have seen how it can start at a indented time. Early increments act as a prototype. So this is a very good feature of the incremental model, that the early is deliveries those development can be considered as a prototype of the full system, because we have taken a small system, a small scope, which is also operational, and it is independent, and it is the basic function. So so we can use that as a prototype, and using that as a prototype, it will help us to refine the subsequent requirements for the subsequent increments. Because of this, our requirement gathering, requirement finalization for each increment will be much better, and it will reduce the risk of the overall project failure. Highest priority system services tend to receive repeated testing. So this is regarding the quality of the system that we are delivering. Here, what will happen is, because when we deliver the second increment, we are also testing the base element, because base modules are being used by the additional feature modules. So whenever we are testing the subsequent increments, the previous increment modules are also getting tested. So as a result, what will happen? The base modules, the earlier modules, will get tested multiple times. And because they are tested multiple times with different paths and different sets of data, they will tend to be more reliable. They will have increased reliability. Their quality will be much higher. As customer value is delivered with each increment, system functionality is available earlier. So patient doesn't have to wait. The customer doesn't have to wait patiently for when the complete system will be delivered. He keeps getting little by little. So he keeps getting the value to his work. So what happens is the customer satisfaction will also increase. Not only that the failure will reduce, the reliability will reduce, the value will increase, and the satisfaction will increase. So in general, the incremental model is a very helpful model, and it is specifically useful when you have resource crunch. So you can do the project with less resource, and you can deliver it incrementally, feature by feature. You can select a set of features which is um, in consultation with the customer, and you can keep delivering it. However, if you take the complete set of increments to complete the project, that time may be much higher than if we had more resources and if we did it in a classical waterfall model or in a iterative waterfall model. Now let us come to a second model of this incremental type, incremental concept, which is known as the rapid application development, or RAD in short. It is an incremental development process that lays importance on short development cycle. So in the previous case, we have seen that the focus was on the business value, how we select the increment scope based on the increment business value was the main focus. Here, the focus is something different. The customer is in a hurry to get the system. So short development cycle is the major important parameter which we have to lay our focus. It is a variation of waterfall model where the development is done by several parallel working teams in a very short time after the requirements are specified and frozen. So it is partly waterfall in the sense that the requirements has to be gathered and specified, and we cannot do the requirement analysis again. So this is a one-time exercise, like in the case of a waterfall model. But once this is done, the scope is divided into several projects or several components, and we have several teams, working teams. They work on this each of these component by component in a parallel fashion. There are several teams, each works on different functionality, and these are integrated to create a fully functional system. So the full functionality is divided into different functionality, and each of this set of functionality is done by a separate team, and each team works in a parallel manner. It achieves, and at the end of the completion of each of the teamwork, what happens is each of this, that is why we call it as a component. So these components are integrated. Once it is integrated, a fully functional system is achieved. So that can be tested and that can be delivered to the user. It achieves the speed by reuse of pre-existing software components or modules. So this is another way by which we can get this short time duration development of the project. There is a stress on the use of automation of tool to get higher productivity. So on one hand, we are using pre-existing software components so that we don't have to develop everything. and also pre-existing software components are already tested by the person who is providing that, or the vendor who is providing that. And on the second item, we also have automation tools as a second point of getting short duration development. What we try to do is we try to use the automation tools for testing, for code generation, for designing. So all these technical activities, if we can get automation tools, then we get higher productivity. That means we can produce more results, more work in less time. That is what is the meaning of higher productivity. The rate at which we do the work increases. So when the rate increases, automatically we can achieve short development cycle. The RAD approach can be mapped to the generic process framework of communication, planning, modeling, construction, and deployment. So when we write our phases in each of these component development, then that can be mapped to the generic process framework. In the generic process framework, we had these 5 phases: communication, planning, modeling, construction, and deployment. So these 5 phases can be very nicely mapped to the concept of the RAD development. So let us see how we do that. So here the finalized requirement, here we start with the first phase, that is the communication, with this which we have taken from the generic process framework. Then we go to the planning. So the communication phase and the planning phase is sequentially done, and it is done only once. At the planning phase, we are actually breaking the requirement into multiple modules, or multiple components, or multiple subsystems, and each of these is being worked on by a separate team. So we have team 1 here, team 2 here, and like that, team number n. And then what they do is they do 2 phases, that is modeling and construction. So for the component n, we do the modeling construction. For the component 1 also, we are doing modeling and construction. So and after that, these all the components, when each of this component is ready, then we do the integration, and we do the testing, and we deliver it. And when we deliver it, we get the feedback. Again, this feedback is used to improve or to fix the defects. Now, if you see the time limit between this planning to deployment, that is the 2 phases of modeling and construction, it is tried to do it within the 90 days. That is a 3-month period, a short duration project. So this is 3 months, and then we have some time that will be required for the communication, some time that will be required for the planning, and some time that will be required for the integration and deployment. So automatically we can see that we are achieving a very tight, low delivery time for doing the this model. That is why it is called a rapid application development. So process phases are taken from the generic process framework. That is what we were discussing. So what are the activities that we do in this? So in the increments, so this communication and planning are similar to the generic process framework. The communication is requirement finalization, and the planning is the project planning activities. Mainly in this case, the division of these scopes of each of these components or the subsystems, and assigning to the different teams, creating several plans are made at the same time. Then we go to the modeling and the construction. So in the modeling, there are 3 types of modeling activities. One is the business modeling. The business scenario is analyzed to understand the data, the information flow, and what is the function. That is the what it is meant to, what kind of function it will do, what kind of processing will be required. And the description or modeling of the information flow is carried out. Either we can do a scenario analysis, or we can use flowcharts, or we can use case modeling. And this will show us the source of the information, who is using it, what is the destination of this, and what is the type, what is the structure of the information. All these things will get modeled, and also some amount of data dictionary is also created during the business modeling. We will start with that, adding our data elements into the data dictionary. Then we do the data modeling, where the information is refined into data groups, which could be either be objects, or it could be in the form of entities. These are and then their relation, that means the entity relationship diagrams or the object relations, the different types of object diagrams, class diagrams, and other relative relation between the classes is analyzed. So the relationship is examined and the description is documented. So we add to the data dictionary, and we refine the data dictionary that we have started during the business modeling. We can do the entity relationship diagram and the object diagrams. Then we do the process modeling. When we do the process modeling, the process, that is the transformations that we have to do for the data or the objects as per the business flow, that has to be analyzed. They have to be properly identified, and the data object description will be refined at the process modeling phase. And we can create so many models like data flow diagram, class diagram, and activity diagrams. This is the communication and planning. This is common to the all the teams. This is to understand the business problem. In this phase, the requirements are finalized in consultation with the user. This we have already discussed. And planning, the delivery schedules are made, broken down of smaller scope. Component is viewed as a modular, portable, replaceable, and reusable set of well-defined functionality. So each component or each subsystem is viewed as modular because it has to be integrated with other subsystems, so that it has to be modular. That means it should to be independent of the others as much as possible. So modularity is a concept in design which we will be taking up in more detail while we do the design lessons. But for the present, let us understand that modularity means that they have to be as independent of each other, and they have to be portable to any other environment, replaceable, and reusable. So we have to start with the reusable set because it can be combined and created into a bigger scope, bigger software. Then multiple software teams assigned, so that is another part of the planning. And we have to see that the time delivery, when we do make the delivery schedule, we have to see that it is time boxed or it is within 60 to 90 days. So that we have seen. So we have already seen the communication planning and the construction and the deployment. We have already seen in detail what we do during the modeling. And then we have the construction and the deployment. So let's look at the RAT model a little on the advantages and the drawbacks. So each development team creates a fully functional software of smaller scope which can be integrated to form the flow. So this is a very good feature because each one is independently, they don't have to bother about the other teams. Each team is separate. They have a separate boundary, and the whatever functionality they take up is not that much related to the others. So that is one good thing, that we are creating fully functional software of smaller scope. If requirements are well understood and the project scope can be modularized, that is what is known as a scalable scope. So if we can really break it into fully functional software, which are in terms of modularization or scalable scope, then each major function can be completed in less than 3 months. So this we have to take care. If the project scope is not scalable, then we cannot achieve these 3 months. But if it is well understood and it can be scalable, then we can divide the scope into smaller subsystems, and each subsystem we can try to complete it in less than 3 months. and therefore we can get the speed of development to this software. The drawbacks is that RAD can be used for large and scalable projects. So it should be large so that it can be broken down into sub projects or mini projects, and also it should be scalable. That means it should be addable, it should be integrable. So if you can't break it into smaller scopes which can be integrated, then we cannot use this architecture of the process that we have seen in the RAD model. However, it requires a sufficient human resources. So if it is doing this, we can squeeze the time required, and we can create many subsystems and do it parallelly. But for the parallel working teams, we need that much of software engineers, so many human resources. So let's say we have 10 teams, and each team takes around 7 to 8 engineers. Then we need to have 70, we need to have available with us 70 software engineers at the same time within the same span of 3 months, or little more than that, because they have to be associated with other activities also. So this is a major problem for using the RAD model. So one of the drawbacks is that it requires sufficient amount of human resources at the same period. A project fail if developers and customers are not committed to work in a shortened time frame. So if the because it requires small time frame, so if the customers and the customers, especially the customer, is not committed, if the customer is not committed, customer does not give its own time for the development teams, then even though if you have a lot of human resources and if you try to make them committed, then also because of the customer's time availability may be a constraint, and they may not be able to commit their time to the work. So that may be one of the reasons. Even though we are able to scale it and we are able to create the human resources, many teams, but the project may fail. Problematic if system cannot be modularized, that we have already discussed. It should be scalable and it should be modularized. Not appropriate when technical risks are high. Suppose we have a project where where there is a lot of technical risks, and in other words, we are not aware. Whenever we say risk, that means we are not aware what will happen. There is some uncertainty. So let's say we are using a new technology. So we are not aware what kind of problem it will pose, or we are not aware of the productivity rate that we will get. So there is always a risk, technical risks. So that is why we call it technical risk. And suppose we were not doing the RAD application, we were using some other model, then we could take some time for experimentation, and we could establish the technical procedures before we take up the project. But here, because it has to be completed in less than 3 months, it is very tight in terms of schedule. So we do not have any scope for the experimentation, and because we don't have any scope of experimentation, wherever there is a possibility of getting into technical risks, those kind of projects is not appropriate for us to use the RAD model. So let's come to the summarization. So in this lesson, what we have seen is that we have first introduced the concept of incremental delivery. That means developing the base model and developing features around it, so that we can divide the project into increments. And we have also discussed the RAD process, the concept of the RAD process, where we are dividing it into subsystems, and we are having multiple teams working on it. So these two concepts we have discussed. Both are derived from the waterfall model. We have taken the waterfall model as the basis, and we have made certain deviations and added some new concepts to the to develop these incremental and RAD process models. No incremental In incremental method, the functionality is built one over the other, and increments are carried out sequentially with slight overlap. So here the sequential nature is still maintained like the waterfall. In a RAD system, system requirements are divided into components. So these are developed in parallel and then integrated. So here we still have increments which are sequentially carried out, and each increment is a waterfall. Although we increase the transparency and the customer satisfaction by creating these increments and giving business value to the user, we still have a linear sequential fashion like the models we discussed in the previous lesson. But in the RAD, there is a slight deviation because we are using parallel teams for doing the modeling and the construction. So this is slightly different. But however, it still has the characteristics of the waterfall because all requirements must be known at the beginning, right, like the waterfall. So the requirement has to be frozen in the beginning. But in incremental, although the other sequential characteristics is maintained, but the requirements need not be frozen. The requirements can be analyzed incrementally. So there are some positive and some negative points in each of these two, and both are some derivations, some deviations, or some extensions of the waterfall model. So thank you all for giving me attention. And in the subsequent classes, we will look into some more models of different nature.